Ethan had been traveling for many days, moving from one town to another with only a small backpack and a quiet mind. He was used to the sound of his own footsteps, the rustle of leaves, the long empty roads, and the freedom of having no fixed home. On this particular morning, the sun was soft and warm, and the sky looked peaceful. He followed a narrow path that led him toward a remote village he had never seen before. He was only thinking of finding water, a place to rest, and maybe a small meal. As he walked, he heard the sound of flowing water somewhere ahead. It was the kind of sound that made any tired traveler feel hopeful. When he reached the river, he paused and smiled. The water was clear and calm near the edge, but the middle looked deeper and stronger. Large trees stood around the river, their branches bending gently in the wind. For the first time in days, Ethan felt relaxed. He knelt down and scooped some water into his hands. The coldness made him let out a short breath. After drinking, he sat on a rock to enjoy the calm morning. He looked around, thinking the place was beautiful enough to make anyone stop for a while. He did not know that something life-changing was only moments away. He had just closed his eyes for a short rest, when he heard a sudden scream. At first, he thought it was an animal, but the sound came again louder and clearly human. Ethan jumped to his feet, confused and alert. He looked around carefully, and that is when he saw him, a young boy, not more than 8 years old, struggling in the middle of the river. The boy's small hands slapped at the water as he fought the strong current. His head went under again and again. Ethan had no time to think. He ran straight toward the riverbank, throwing his backpack aside. The sound of the rushing water grew louder, mixing with the boy's panicked cries. "Hold on," Ethan shouted. Even though he knew the child probably could not hear him over the noise, he dived into the cold water, feeling the shock of it shoot through his body. The current pulled at him, trying to drag him away, but he pushed forward with strong strokes. He could see the boy, eyes wide with fear, limbs weak from trying to stay afloat. Ethan reached him just as the river threatened to pull the child under again. "I've got you," Ethan said firmly, wrapping one arm around the boy's chest. The boy held on to Ethan with all the strength he had left. Ethan fought against the current, kicking hard and pulling both of them toward the shore. It felt like a long struggle, but slowly the water grew shallower. When they finally reached the riverbank, Ethan lifted the boy out of the water and laid him gently on the grass. The child coughed and gasped, trembling with shock and cold. Ethan quickly checked if he was hurt. Thankfully, the boy was only shaken and frightened. He sat beside him, rubbing his back to help him breathe more easily. "It's okay now," Ethan said softly. "You're safe." Duh. The boy looked up at him with wide eyes full of relief and fear mixed together. Before he could respond, sounds of running footsteps echoed from behind them. People from the nearby village were rushing toward the river. They had heard the shouts. Some had seen the splash from a distance. Now they arrived breathless and alarmed. One of the villagers, an older man with gray hair, pointed at Ethan. "You saved the boy?" he asked in a surprised voice. Ethan nodded, still catching his breath. The villagers gathered around, speaking quickly in their local language. Ethan could not understand most of it, but he could tell they were shocked and grateful. Some of them touched the boy's face, checking if he was truly okay. A woman pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with fear and worry. She looked like she had been running for a long time. Her dark hair was tied loosely, and her clothes showed she had left her work in a hurry. When she saw the child, she dropped to her knees. "Liko," she cried, pulling the boy into her arms. The boy clung to her, still shaking, and whispered something into her ear. She held him close, tears running down her face. Ethan stepped back slightly, giving them space. He was glad the boy was safe and back with his family, but he began to sense something unusual. The villagers were not just relieved, they were whispering intensely among themselves. Some of them kept glancing at Ethan, their expressions filled with something he could not understand. Respect? Surprise? Or something else entirely? The woman finally stood up, still holding her child tightly. She looked at Ethan with deep gratitude. "Thank you," she said in a gentle voice. "You saved my son." Before Ethan could reply, one of the older men stepped forward. He cleared his throat and raised his hand for silence. The villagers stopped talking and turned their attention to him. Ethan felt the air change, almost as if something important was about to happen. The elder looked at Ethan with serious eyes. "Stranger," he said, "our village has a very old law." Ethan blinked, confused. He had no idea what an old law had to do with saving a child. The elder continued, "In our tribe, a person who saves the life of a clan child becomes tied to that child's family. It is our way to honor the bond created through bravery." Ethan felt even more confused. The words sounded heavy and important, but he did not understand the full meaning. The elder took a deep breath as he spoke the next line. "By this law, you are now the husband of the child's mother." Ethan froze. He stared at the elder, then at the villagers, then at the woman holding her son. His mind struggled to understand what he had just heard. Husband of this woman? Because he saved her child? For a moment, everything felt unreal. He wondered if he had misheard the elder. But the villagers' expressions told him he had heard correctly. They all looked at him with the same serious expression, as if this was the most natural conclusion in their culture. The woman looked shocked, not upset, just stunned. She hugged her son closer, but kept her eyes on Ethan. I didn't expect this," she admitted softly. Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. He had helped because it was the right thing to do, not because he wanted anything in return, especially not something as big as this. He felt the weight of many eyes on him, waiting for his response. He finally managed to speak. "I didn't know about this law. I only wanted to help." "We know," the elder said with a nod. "Your heart was pure. That is exactly why the law honors you." Ethan looked at the river, the same river that had seemed peaceful just minutes ago. Now it felt like the place where his life had suddenly changed. He looked again at the woman, who seemed calm but unsure. The boy, Liko, peered at him with innocent eyes filled with gratitude. Ethan felt as if he had stepped into a world he did not understand. What began as a simple morning had turned into something far more complicated than he could have imagined. The villagers waited silently. Ethan swallowed hard, wondering what would happen next, and knowing that nothing in his life would be the same after this moment. Ethan stood by the river, surrounded by villagers whose eyes were filled with a strange mixture of respect, expectation, and curiosity. He still felt water dripping from his clothes, and his heart was beating fast, not from the rescue anymore, but from the sudden announcement that had turned his world upside down. He had come here looking for a quiet stop on his journey, and now he was being told he was the husband of a woman he had never met before today. The boy, Liko, was holding his mother's hand as the villagers waited for Ethan to speak. Ethan took a slow breath, trying to understand the situation. He had never been part of any village before, never followed any traditions like this, and the idea of becoming someone's husband because of a rescue felt unreal. He looked at the woman again. She stood straight, calm, but he could see the uncertainty in her eyes, too. This wasn't something she had expected either. "I don't understand," Ethan finally said, not knowing where else to begin. The elder nodded slowly. "Our ancestors created this law long ago," he explained. "In times when danger was great, a person who saved a child became part of that family. It meant protection, unity, and honor." Ethan listened carefully. The elder spoke with sincerity, not force. The villagers were not trying to trap him. They truly believed in their old tradition. "But I didn't come here to take anyone's place," Ethan said gently. "I only wanted to help the boy." The elder placed a kind hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You did what many would fear to do. You've risked your life for a child who is not yours. That is why the law applies." Ethan looked down at his wet hands. He couldn't deny that he had acted without thinking, only wanting to save Liko, but he had never imagined something like this would follow. He looked up at the villagers again. The woman stepped forward for the first time. "My name is Nalia," she said softly. "And this is my son Liko," Ethan nodded. "I'm Ethan." She gave him a faint, shy smile. "It wasn't uncomfortable, just different. I want to say thank you first," she said. "What happens after? We can talk about it. I don't want you to feel pressured." Her voice was warm and calm, and it made Ethan feel a little less lost. He could tell she was strong and kind. She wasn't angry about the tradition. She wasn't overly excited either. She was trying to handle the situation with grace, just like he was. The villagers began guiding them away from the river. "Come to the meeting place," the elder said. "We will discuss everything there." Ethan followed slowly, still unsure of what he was walking into. The village had small houses made from wood and clay, neat and well kept. People peeked from their doors and whispered as they saw Ethan walking beside Nalia and Liko. Children stared wide at him, as if he were someone important. They reached an open area in the center of the village. Mats were spread on the ground. The villagers sat in a circle, leaving space for Ethan, Nalia, and Liko in the center. Ethan sat carefully, still feeling out of place. Liko sat beside him, close enough that Ethan felt the boy trusted him already. The elder cleared his throat. "We honor Ethan for his bravery, but before we move forward, we wish to hear his thoughts." Ethan looked around the circle. Everyone was quiet, waiting for him. "I appreciate your kindness." He began slowly, "And I understand that your traditions are important to you. But I don't want to disrespect anyone. I don't want to make a promise I don't fully understand." The villagers murmured softly. The elder smiled kindly. "That is wise. You do not have to make a decision today." Ethan felt relieved. At least he had time. Nalia looked at him with gratitude. "You can stay in our home for now," she offered. "Just rest, eat, and learn about us. After that, you may decide what feels right to you." Ethan hesitated. Staying with them felt strange, but walking away right now felt wrong too. The villagers looked hopeful, as if they wanted him to stay, not because of the law alone, but because they believed he belonged here in some way. Liko tugged gently on Ethan's sleeve. "Please stay," he said, his voice small but full of honesty. "I want to thank you properly." Ethan's heart softened. How could he say no to the little boy he had pulled from the river? He nodded slowly. "All right, I'll stay for now." A wave of relief and happiness spread across the villagers' faces. The elder clapped his hands softly. "Good, you will learn about our ways, and we will learn about you." Nalia guided Ethan toward her home, a small but warm-looking house with a thatched roof and a wooden door. Inside, it smelled of herbs and fresh bread. Shelves were filled with clay pots, dried plants, and tools Nalia used for healing. Liko placed a blanket on a wooden chair for Ethan to sit on. "You must be tired," Nalia said, as she set a cup of warm tea in front of him. "You can rest here." Ethan sipped the tea. It was sweet and calming. "Thank you," he said genuinely. Nalia sat down across from him. "I want to explain something," she said quietly. "The tradition, they take it seriously. But I would never want you to feel forced into becoming part of our family." Ethan nodded. "I appreciate that. This is all very new to me, I know." Nalia looked down at her hands. "I lost my husband years ago. Since then, people worry about me and Liko. The law was made long ago, but they still follow it because they believe it protects families like ours." Ethan understood a little better now. The tradition wasn't just an old rule, it was a way to keep people safe, to give widows and children support. He could respect that Liko sat beside them, playing with a wooden toy. Ethan noticed the boy kept glancing at him with quiet admiration, as if Ethan were a hero. That made Ethan feel warm inside, even though he didn't think of himself as anything special. After some time, Nalia prepared a simple meal. She gave Ethan a wooden plate filled with rice, vegetables, and warm bread. Ethan ate slowly, feeling more comfortable with each passing moment. Nalia spoke gently, telling him small stories about the village, how they farmed, how they celebrated festivals, how close they were to each other. Ethan found himself listening with interest. He was used to wandering alone, never staying in one place long enough to feel connected. Here, even though everything was new, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of belonging, but the uncertainty still lingered in his mind. When the meal ended, Liko came to sit beside Ethan again. "Will you stay with us tomorrow too?" the boy asked. Ethan smiled softly. "Yes, I think I will." Liko grinned happily, and Nalia looked relieved. Ethan felt a strange warmth grow in his chest. Maybe it was because he was thankful to be welcomed so kindly. Maybe it was because he had nearly died saving Liko, and this family was treating him with respect and care. That night, the village held a small gathering. There was no pressure, No ceremony, just songs, warm fire, and gentle laughter. Ethan sat with Nalia and Liko beside him. People came to greet him, offering simple gestures of thanks. Some gave him handmade gifts, small carvings, woven bracelets, little flowers. Ethan felt touched by their kindness. The elder approached him once more. "You do not need to decide right away," he repeated, "but you should know. Our hearts are open to you." Ethan nodded. "Thank you. I will take time to think." As the night grew darker, Ethan walked back to Nalia's home with her and Liko. The moonlight made the village look peaceful, almost magical. Liko walked between them, holding both their hands. It felt natural, comfortable. When they reached the house, Nalia handed Ethan a clean blanket. "You can sleep here," she said softly. "Thank you," Ethan replied. As he lay down to rest, he stared at the ceiling, thinking deeply. He had come to this place by accident, yet everything that had happened felt strangely meaningful. He wondered if fate had led him here. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew one thing for certain: his life had already begun to change. The next morning, Ethan woke up to the soft sound of birds singing outside the small window of Nalia's home. For a moment, he forgot where he was. He sat up slowly, wrapped in the warm blanket she had given him, and looked around. Sunlight filtered through the wooden window frame, painting golden lines on the clay walls. The house felt peaceful, safe, and strangely familiar, even though he had only spent one night there. When he stepped outside, he saw Nalia grinding herbs on a stone table, while Liko played with small wooden toys nearby. Both of them looked up when they heard Ethan's footsteps. "Good morning," Nalia said with a gentle smile. "Morning," Ethan replied. Liko ran to him excitedly. "I made a boat," he said, holding a small wooden toy proudly, "just like the ones you showed me yesterday." Ethan knelt down to look. The little boat was rough, uneven, but full of effort and creativity. "It's great," he said warmly. "You did a good job." Liko's eyes shined with happiness. Nalia walked over with a bowl of warm breakfasts, simple rice and fruits. Ethan accepted it gratefully. As they ate, a soft breeze passed through the village, carrying the scent of flowers and wood smoke. Villagers were starting their day, tending gardens, feeding animals, or carrying water from the well. Everything moved in a calm rhythm, and Ethan found himself relaxing. After breakfast, the elder arrived at Nalia's home. He greeted Ethan with a respectful nod. "Today," he said kindly, "we would like to show you more of our ways. You should know the truth behind our traditions." Ethan agreed willingly. He felt that understanding the culture was important, not just for his decision, but also for the respect he wanted to show this community. Nalia joined them, and together they walked through the village. They passed small fields where women worked with tools made of wood and stone. Children ran around playing simple games. Everyone greeted Nalia with warmth, and many greeted Ethan too, smiling politely, curious but friendly. They eventually reached a large old tree in the center of the village. Its roots twisted deeply into the earth, and its branches spread wide, providing shade. Beneath it sat a circular stone platform. "This," the elder said softly, "is where we honor our ancestors." Ethan looked up at the wide tree. It felt ancient, powerful, almost alive in a special way. The elder invited him to sit on the stone platform. "Our people have lived here for many generations," the elder began. "In the past, times were hard. Families struggled, and danger was everywhere. Many parents worked from sunrise to sunset. Children often wandered near rivers, forests, or mountains. It was easy for accidents to happen." Ethan listened carefully. "One day, long ago," the elder continued, "a child fell into the river, just like Liko did. A traveler passing through saved the child's life. But before the traveler could leave, something terrible happened." The elder paused, letting the story settle. The child's mother had no one else. She was alone. And because she was alone, she was not safe. After the traveler left, harmful things began happening. There was no one to support her or the child. She struggled for many years. Ethan felt a heaviness grow in his chest. He could imagine the difficulty of raising a child alone in a place where dangers were common. "So," the elder said, The ancestors created a law, a simple rule to protect children and mothers who faced hardship. Whoever saved a child would become part of the family, not as a burden, but as a shield and support. Ethan thought deeply about this. It made sense now. The tradition wasn't made to trap someone, it was created to save someone. Nalia spoke softly beside him. The law is old, but the heart of it is still meaningful. It was never meant to force anyone. It was meant to keep families safe and give them strength. Ethan looked at her. She seemed calm, but he could sense the emotion behind her words. "You've been taking care of Liko alone all this time?" he asked gently. Nalia nodded. "Yes, I do my best. He is everything to me. But raising a child alone is not easy, even in a peaceful village." Ethan glanced at Liko, who was chasing a butterfly near the tree. The boy's laughter made something warm move inside him. The elder continued, "We do not expect an answer today, but we want you to understand why the law exists." Ethan appreciated their honesty. He felt respected, not pressured. Nalia then offered, "Would you like to see where I work?" He nodded, and she led him to a small hut near the edge of the village. Inside, shelves were filled with herbs, roots, powders, and jars. A gentle smell of healing plants filled the air. "I'm the healer here," Nalia said. "People come when they are hurt or sick. I learned from my mother, and she learned from hers." Ethan watched as she explained each herb. Some were used for fevers, some for cuts, and some for calming restless children. She worked with so much care, and Ethan admired that. As they left the hut, Liko grabbed Ethan's hand. "Come," he said with excitement. "I want to show you something." He led Ethan to the riverbank, though much farther from the dangerous deep area. This part of the river was calm and shallow, safe for children to play. Liko showed Ethan how he made small toy boats float on the water, "You see?" Liko said proudly. "I'm not scared anymore because you taught me how to stay safe." Ethan felt a quiet warmth inside his chest. He didn't want the boy to fear the water again, and seeing him brave and smiling made Ethan feel like he had truly helped. Nalia watched them from a short distance. Ethan noticed her gentle expression, filled with gratitude and something softer he couldn't name. It made him feel peaceful. The elder joined them again later. "You are learning our ways," he said with approval. "Tomorrow we will show you more. But today you should rest and think." Ethan nodded. He appreciated the slow, respectful pace. No one was pushing him, but he could feel how much hope the village carried. That afternoon, there was a simple meal shared outside Nalia's home. Villagers came to talk to Ethan. Some told him stories of their families, others asked him about his travels. He felt welcome not as an outsider, as someone they already cared for. As the sun began to set, Nalia and Liko walked with him along a quiet path behind the village. Fireflies danced in the air, and the sky turned orange and pink. "Ethan," Nalia said softly, "I know this is all sudden. I want you to know. I am not asking you to stay because of the tradition. If you stay, I want it to be your choice." Her honesty touched him deeply. She wasn't desperate. She wasn't trying to bind him to a rule. She was simply giving him space to think, and that made his heart feel lighter. Liko held Ethan's hand. "I like you," he said. "You're kind," Ethan smiled. "I like you too." The boy beamed happily. That night, Ethan lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling again, but this time with different thoughts. Yesterday, the village felt strange and unfamiliar. Today, it felt warm, safe, and filled with people who cared about each other. He thought about Nalia, strong and gentle. He thought about Liko, brave and cheerful. And he thought about the tradition not as a burden, but as a story of protection and unity. He wasn't sure what decision he would make yet. But one thing was clear. Every hour he spent here made the village feel more like a place he didn't want to leave. The next day began with a soft mist covering the village. The air felt cool and fresh, and tiny droplets of dew shimmered on every leaf. Ethan stepped out of Nalia's home, stretching his arms as he breathed in the clean morning air. He had slept better than he had in weeks. Something about this place, the quiet sounds, the gentle routine. The warmth of the people made him feel at peace. Liko ran toward him with a wide smile. "Ethan, come see. Come see," he shouted excitedly. Ethan laughed and followed him. Liko led him to a small garden beside their house. It was filled with colorful flowers, some bright red, some soft purple, and some a warm, gentle yellow. Nalea was kneeling on the ground, carefully trimming the leaves of a plant with long green stems. "I grow these for healing," she explained. "They help with pain and swelling." Ethan watched her work with calm skill. Her hands were steady, and her eyes were full of focus and care. He admired how she carried so much responsibility with quiet strength. "You woke up early?" Ethan said with a smile. Nalea wiped her hands on her cloth. "There is always work to do," she replied gently. "But it feels lighter these days." Ethan noticed she looked at him when she said that, but she quickly glanced away, shy and unsure. Before he could say anything, the elder appeared at the garden entrance. "Ethan," he said warmly, "today we will show you how our village works together. If you wish to understand our way of life, you should see everything." Ethan agreed. Liko insisted on holding his hand as they walked, skipping happily between him and Nalea. The elder first took them to the fields. Dozens of villagers were planting seeds, carrying tools, or watering rows of green crops. The sun was climbing higher, casting long golden beams across the soil. "Our food grows here," the elder explained. "Everyone works together. No one is left alone." Ethan watched a group of men lift heavy sacks, while others helped elderly villagers do lighter tasks. Children collected small stones from the soil to keep the ground clean. Everyone had a role. Everyone belonged. Then the elder showed him the workshop where tools were made. Ethan watched as skilled hands shaped wooden tools, carved handles, and built baskets. The workers talked and laughed together, their teamwork creating a warm atmosphere. "This is how we grow stronger," the elder said. "Together," Ethan found himself nodding. His old life had been full of traveling alone, moving from place to place without roots. Watching these villagers work side by side touched something in him, something he didn't know had been missing. After visiting the workshop, they traveled to the highest hill near the village. From there, Ethan saw the entire landscape, the winding river, the peaceful homes, the green fields, the tall mountains in the distance. Nalea stood beside him, the breeze gently moving her hair. "This is where I come when I need to think," she said quietly. "It helps me feel calm." Ethan looked at her. "Do you come here often?" "Only when things become heavy," she replied. "Raising Liko alone taught me to stay strong. But even strong people feel tired sometimes." Ethan understood her more clearly now. She wasn't someone who wanted pity. She was someone who carried her life with grace. Even during the hardest moments, Liko ran around them, spreading his arms like he was a bird. His laughter echoed across the hill. Ethan felt the sound fill him with warmth. When they walked back down, the sun had climbed high. Villagers gathered in the center again, preparing lunch together. Children danced around the fire. Elders sat, telling gentle stories. Nalea invited Ethan to sit with her and Liko on a woven mat. She handed Ethan a bowl of hot stew with vegetables and herbs. As he ate, he realized how natural everything felt nousing beside them. Sharing meals, listening to villagers' laughter, it felt like something he could get used to. After lunch, some villagers invited Ethan to join a small activity. The children were building small wooden towers, and they wanted Ethan to help them. He sat with them, teaching them how to balance the pieces so the towers wouldn't fall. Liko proudly built the tallest tower and invited Ethan to look. "You taught me well," he said proudly. Ethan ruffled his hair. "You're a fast learner." The elder watched all this from a distance. Smiling quietly later in the afternoon, Nalea approached Ethan. "If you want," she said softly, "you can see where Liko almost fell into the river." "The place is important to understand," Ethan nodded, and they walked together. The river glimmered under the sunlight. The deeper part where the currents were strong looked peaceful now, but Ethan remembered how dangerous it had been. "I told Liko many times not to come near this part alone," Nalea said with worry in her voice. "But children are curious. He didn't tell me where he was going that day." She held her hands together tightly. "When he didn't return," she continued, "I felt like my whole world stopped. When I saw him safe in your arms, I felt something I cannot describe. Ethan looked at her. Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. I understand, Ethan said gently. Anyone would feel that way. Nalia took a slow breath. When the elder announced the tradition, I was shocked too. I didn't expect something so life-changing in one moment. Ethan waited, sensing she had more to say, but then she whispered, I saw how kind you were to Liko, how patient you were with him, and how respectful you are with everyone. And I thought, maybe the ancestors knew what they were doing. Her words struck Ethan deeply. He didn't know what to say. The sincerity in her voice made his heart feel strangely full. Before he could reply, Liko ran toward them with a big smile. Mama, Ethan, look what I found. He held a small, smooth stone shaped like a heart. Nalia laughed softly and gently touched her son's cheek. It's beautiful, she said, as they walked back to the village. Ethan felt something settling inside him, a calm feeling. A quiet understanding by evening. The villagers gathered for a simple celebration. There was music made with wooden instruments, gentle songs, and bright lanterns hanging from tree branches. Ethan sat beside Nalia and Liko as they enjoyed the warm light and cheerful voices. The elder approached Ethan once again. His voice was soft and patient. You have seen our culture. You have walked among our people. You have shared meals, stories, and smiles. Now you understand why this tradition exists. Ethan nodded slowly. I understand much better now. It is time, the elder said kindly, to consider your heart. Not because of the law, but because of the bond that has started to grow. Ethan looked at Nalia. She didn't pressure him. She didn't speak. She simply looked at him with gentle eyes full of honesty and quiet hope. Liko leaned against Ethan, sleepy from all the play. His small hand held Ethan's sleeve tightly. Ethan felt something shift deep inside him. These two were no longer strangers. They felt like a family he had somehow always been meant to meet. He looked at the elder again and took a slow breath. I need one more day, he said softly. The elder nodded. Take all the time you need. We trust your heart. That night, as Ethan lay in his bed, he felt no confusion, only a deep warmth spreading through him. He had come here by chance, but everything about this place felt meaningful. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he felt closer than ever to making a decision that could change all their lives. The morning of the ceremony began with a soft, warm light spreading across the village. Ethan opened his eyes slowly, surprised by how calm he felt. For the past few days, he had struggled with confusion, doubt, and fear of making the wrong choice. But today felt different. Today, he felt steady inside. He felt ready. He stepped out of the small guest hut and saw the villagers already preparing things. Some were weaving flower ropes, others painting smooth stones with bright colors. Children ran around with excitement, carrying baskets of leaves and small pieces of cloth. There was a soft drum sound coming from the far end of the village, and the air smelled of fresh fruit and warm bread. The whole place seemed to be celebrating something important. Ethan watched quietly for a moment, before he noticed Liko standing a few steps away. The boy looked proud, wearing a clean woven shirt and holding a small wooden carving in his hands. You look happy today? Ethan said softly. Liko nodded quickly, his eyes bright. Because today, you stay. You won't leave us now. Ethan felt his heart warm. He placed a gentle hand on Liko's shoulder. Yes, I'm here. I'm staying. The boy smiled so widely that Ethan couldn't help but smile back. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged somewhere, not because he was needed, but because he was wanted. A few minutes later, Nalia walked toward them. She was dressed in simple clothes, but something about her made her look graceful and calm. She had placed small white flowers in her hair, and her eyes held a quiet shine. You're awake early, she said, her voice soft and warm. There's a lot to see. Ethan replied. Everyone is working so happily. It's an important day for the village, she said. Not just because of the ceremony, but because they feel hope again. It has been a long time since they celebrated something new. For a moment, they both stood silently, watching the people. The soft wind carried the smell of fresh leaves, and colorful cloths danced gently between the trees. Everything felt peaceful. Soon, the elders began calling the villagers to gather near the central ground. Ethan followed, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. Liko held his hand tightly, as if afraid someone might try to take Ethan away. The ground was decorated beautifully. Small stones painted with symbols surrounded the open circle. Flower ropes hung from tree branches, and children stood with woven baskets, ready to throw petals later. Ethan took his place beside Nalia. She looked at him with a quiet expression, grateful, relieved and respectful. Not demanding, not forcing, just sharing a moment with him. The oldest elder stepped forward. His hair was white and his eyes sharp, but his smile was gentle. "Today," the elder said loudly, so everyone could hear, "we welcome a man who came to us as a stranger, but now stands among us by his own choice." The villagers nodded. Some smiled at Ethan, showing warmth and acceptance. The elder continued, "Our law says that saving a child knots two families together. But a knot tied without the heart is weak. Today we honor a choice made with understanding and kindness." Ethan felt a slight pressure on his chest, the kind that comes when something meaningful happens. He glanced at Nalia, who slowly lowered her eyes in respect. The elder asked Ethan to step forward. Ethan took a deep breath and moved into the center of the circle. "Do you choose to be part of this family? Not by force, not by law, but by your own heart?" the elder asked. Ethan lifted his head. His voice came out clear and steady. "Yes, I choose this life with them." The villagers let out a soft cheer. Liko's face lit up like the morning sun, and Nalia closed her eyes for a moment, as if releasing a long-held breath. Then the elder turned to Nalia. "And you, Nalia, do you accept him with respect, with patience, and with trust?" She nodded gently. "Yes, I accept him." The children stepped forward and threw flower petals into the air. Bright colors floated around Ethan and Nalia like tiny pieces of happiness. The villagers clapped and smiled, celebrating not a grand event, but a sincere beginning of something new. Liko ran straight into Ethan's arms. "We're a family now," he said, hugging him tightly. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He hugged the boy back with care. "Yes, we are." After the ceremony, the village held a small feast. People shared food, laughed softly, and told stories. Children danced. Women sang old songs. Ethan felt surrounded by warmth and acceptance. Every person came to greet him, offering kindness and blessings. Nalia sat beside him. For the first time, they felt like a real team. Not to people forced together, but to hearts slowly learning to trust each other as the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Ethan walked with Nalia to the river, the same river where everything had started. The water flowed calmly now, glowing warmly under the soft evening light. "It's peaceful here," Ethan said. "It always has been," Nalia replied. "But it feels different today." "How so?" She smiled softly. "Because you're not standing here as a visitor anymore." Ethan looked at the gentle water, then at Nalia, who stood quietly beside him. "I hope I can be someone who brings good to this place." "You already have," she said. "You saved Liko, but more than that, you brought a new feeling to the village. A feeling we all needed." Her voice held honesty, not pressure. Ethan appreciated that deeply. As they walked back, Liko ran to join them, holding a small leaf boat he had made. He placed it in the water and watched it float gently. "I'm not scared of the river anymore," the boy said proudly, "because you taught me how to be safe." Ethan smiled and rested a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. "And I'll keep teaching you. There's a lot more to learn." Liko looked up at him. "Can we build a bigger boat tomorrow?" Ethan laughed softly. "Yes, we can." They walked back toward the village, the sounds of soft singing reaching their ears. As they approached the warm glow of firelight, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years, a deep sense of home. The night grew darker, but inside the village, everything was bright with joy. People told stories, played small drums, and shared food with warm smiles. Ethan noticed how naturally he moved among them, how easily he laughed with them, how naturally Nalia walked beside him. He realized that this place, these people, this child, and this gentlewoman, all of them had become part of his heart. Later, when most of the villagers had gone to rest, Ethan, Nalia, and Liko sat quietly near the fire. The flames crackled softly, and the stars above looked bright and calm. Nalia looked at Ethan with gratitude. "Thank you for choosing us." Ethan shook his head lightly. "Thank you for opening your world to me." Liko leaned against Ethan's side, already half asleep. Ethan gently supported him, feeling a deep sense of responsibility, but also comfort. A life that had once been full of wandering now finally had direction. A man who once felt alone now had a place where he belonged. A family that once felt incomplete now felt whole as the fire slowly faded and the cool night settled in. Ethan looked around the peaceful village and realized something true. Sometimes the most unexpected events lead to the most meaningful parts of life. And sometimes a single brave moment can change everything forever. Subscribe, please.